Austin, so we're out having religious conversations, talking about people about spiritual matters, and kind of asking kind of a question to get us started, and then we can it'll take wherever it branches out from there. We'll just
go with it.
And Jesus says, "I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Making this exclusive claim as that He is the only path back to God. So what do you think about that?
I think he's right. I mean, I feel that. I'm particularly fond of the actual Gospels that talk about his story and whatnot. I know that when Paul came along later, that I do agree with a lot of things he said, but I think that Jesus was perfect, but everybody around him was flawed, and you saw that through how he told his stories, and how they failed. The flesh is weak. The mind might be willing, but the flesh is weak, and so they failed a lot. And so they couldn't get everything they wanted written down. And I think that Jesus gave us this ambiguity with it too, in order to find consciousness, find what is consciously right and morally right, and use that as the baseline for wherever direction you decide your decisions.
Okay.
So.
Well, Jose, thanks for talking to us today. We are asking students a specific question that Jesus Christ, He says He is the way, He is the truth, He is the life. No one comes to the Father except through Him. What do you think about that statement?
Can you say that again real quick?
Okay. Jesus Christ says He is the way, He is the truth, He is the life. No man gets to the Father except through Him.
Oh yeah, no. This is something I recently converted to Catholicism. I'm sorry if y'all are Christian.
Okay.
I was atheist for a long time.
Oh wow.
So a lot of like hatred came out of that. But one day he's a crazy guy. He's not a good person, but he told me, because I just didn't understand why do you believe in this, right? And he just kind of told me it's like I kind of understood, even if it's not real, if it's fake, it's a way for us to cope with death and cope with the afterlife. I'm a believer, of course, but he told me that Christ will be there at all times to defend us, as He is the light. He's there to defend us in the face of judgment from God, because He died for our sins, and all we gotta really do is accept Him into our heart, So I feel it really isn't that difficult to be a good Christian or Catholic. It really is just accepting Him and loving Him and being accepting of Christ.
And so this man who was speaking this to you, he would say himself he was a Catholic, or?
He was a Christian, actually. He was a Christian. I think he was a Christian.
Well, what brought you to Catholic church versus a Protestant church?
I'm Mexican, so I was raised in Catholic church from a young age. We used to feed priests and fathers and ministers.
Yeah.
They would come from church, and the nuns as well. My grandmother was very much into the church. So I basically just kind of took my understanding from that and my own faith, rosaries and all that, and I stayed with it. Now I've read into other ones. I've never really been super into them. I've only really liked Catholic just because there is its shady aspects of it, but I really feel with it the most because I'm Mexican and I was raised in it.
But so at some point you left it. You decided you didn't believe it, and then at some point there was a coming back.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was. It also helped me a lot with healing, because it happened during the pandemic. This was when we were all alone.
Okay.
And we were all looking for things. We were bettering ourselves.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't for kind of converting back, I don't think I'd be in the same place where now I'm no perfect Catholic. I don't really go to church as much as I should be.
Okay.
I try my best to show up and to pray and to always talk with Him.
I want to kind of turn the corner on something. So you being a Methodist who is not attending a gathering, you're not a part of a church.
Nope.
Let me ask you, Austin, what must I do to be saved?
What must you be, or what must I be? What must the person be?
If I came around the corner, Austin, I'm fearing for my life, what must I do to be saved?
I think that you should verbally and inside your mind, inside your heart, pray to Jesus and accept Him into your heart. I think that ultimately comes to the conscience, comes to actually feeling it in your heart. I think that, in my opinion, baptism, well, it's a ritual. It's what they do. It's what he did. It's what John did. I think it's symbolic.
I agree with
I
that.
think that in the end, it was just because man needs something. They need to see something. When in reality, all you need is your heart has to be in it, and you have to truly believe in it. And that's what I think, that if you really want it, you can be saved. And if somebody's like in a dark corner, they just need to pray.
So why do they need to believe in Jesus?
I think because it's a way of feeling redemption and feeling like
Define that word.
saved from
What is-
sin,
Yeah, okay.
saved from like the things that plague you, and there's many like sinful things you do, and the guilt, and you're always feeling guilty, and that's probably something you always feel, but you just keep praying to Him, and every time you might feel a little bit better, and I think that's how you can progress. Because we're humans, and we're never going to be perfect, never, until the day we die. That's why we die, because of sin. And so I think that you can just try to, as long as you continue to try with all your heart, mind, and soul, and you might be able to achieve something.
According to Paul in the book of Galatians, if you add to the gospel or take away from it, you are to be accursed, because you are making the gospel into nothing.
Dang.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Well, that's what the Catholic Church has done with the gospel. And so I would highly encourage you to consider that. And I'm not saying you have to go to my church or his church or anything, but just find a healthy Bible preaching church that would agree with what Paul has taught us, what Jesus has taught us, that it is through Him and Him alone. It's not through anything else that we have done that we are justified before God. The only thing that justifies us is what Jesus has done. Jesus, when He died upon the cross, He said, "It is finished." Does that sound familiar to you? He said, "It is finished." He breathed His last. What was finished? The offering that was necessary for sin to be forgiven. That he was dying in our place. In fact, the specific word that He said in Greek would have been tetelestai, or tetelestoi. I think I might have mispronounced it. But what that means is paid in full. They used to stamp that at the bottom of a contract during the time of Christ. It would say, they would stamp on it. It said, "This debt is no longer binding. It's fully paid." Jesus, He declared that when He offered up His life in our place. No other work is necessary. No other work is required. It is finished, Jesus tells us. And all who trust in Him, in that work, in that offering of His life, all who trust in Him will be raised with Him to His resurrection. That's what He has promised. Now, does that mean that Christians get to do whatever we want?
No, not exactly.
That's right. That's right. But anything that we do, it's only in response to what God has already done. Our salvation is all in what God has done. And this life is spent just responding to what God has done. Now let me ask you. You say you're not a part of a church anywhere. Is that just because you moved to campus, or?
No, it's the church I was a part of it's way down in South Texas, and it's far.
Sure.
I mean, I joined it, but also like I'm not around it. I don't go to church. I don't go to any churches around here or anywhere around here. And
you
so
don't go home for the weekends?
No, I don't.
Okay.
So I stay around here, and that's kind of just how it is. I think about it, and I still say the prayer every night, the Lord's Prayer.
Okay.
Our Father who art in heaven. I do say it, and you might add on your own personal touch to it. But other than that, I mean,
You read your Bible?
a little bit every now and then. Not as much as I probably should.
Sure.
But it's certain. There's certain things that you read for certain issues. One of my favorites is the Book of Job, and that's a big one on like a lot of life's problems and a lot of life's major calamities that happen. So, and that helps when you see it, and you see at the end, there's insight that's gained.
Yeah. When did you this? So you said during the pandemic is when this kind of awakening happened.
I can't say exactly how I got my awakening because it's kind of a
Yeah.
really funny story, but it was just kind of like a lot of. I realized the only reason I didn't believe in God or Christ was just because out of ego.
Okay.
And then I was just like, I had a really big moment of just waking up and fixing myself and bettering myself. And
Yeah.
thankfully
That's something
God.
like the pandemic, the isolation, that it kind of humbled you.
It helped me. It humbled me a lot.
Yeah.
It just kind of reminded me that like, the world will pass on no matter what. Like, I was in high school when it started, and then when it ended, I'm in college now.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like, dang, none of it really mattered. Like high school, it didn't really matter. Like people don't really care about me. Like it was like, oh shoot. So I kind of felt like broken for a bit. I was like, dang, like no one likes me.
Yeah.
And then I started kind of reading more into religion and more into the Bible and like learning more about Christ. Because what sucked in my childhood was, although I loved my raising in the church, my grandmother was very abusive, in terms of like not like physically but mentally, and she made me hate any religion because I was like, no, this is stupid because people like my grandmother believe in it. So it's ego and that, and eventually like I've grown and I've accepted that my grandmother may not have been a good person.
But she wasn't perfect, right?
She wasn't perfect. She still follows Christ, but she uses His word and the word of many of the Bible wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please take a second to hit the like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel as well. Thanks, and farewell, friends. Welcome to a witnessing warm-up video. It contains multiple situations and clips from street witnessing that you can watch and respond to in order to warm up for your own witnessing. Since you have to figure out everything on the fly in real-life witnessing situations, this video is designed to simulate that kind of experience. So what does that mean? Well, coming into this video, you aren't supposed to know what kind of situations you're getting into, like real life. And as you watch, you'll need to practice active listening to identify what you're hearing on the fly. And at the same time, you'll need to start figuring out some options for how you want to respond. Towards the end of the clip, a timer will appear, and when it starts, then you practice how you would start to respond to the clip. Once the timer is up, the next clip will begin so that you can repeat the process. This process is meant to help you warm up for witnessing before you go out to do it in real life. So watch this kind of video as much as it helps you prepare for your work.